It's almost over. It's almost over. Zion. Hear Mora Yoshiyahu when I tell you it's almost over. Everything that's happening right now points to the fact that it's almost over. The events that are clearly laid down in our Bible concerning us are happening right now as I speak to you, Zion. We see the fulfillment of prophecy. Right now, as I speak to you, we are observing the beginning of the end. It's almost over. Zion shall be rescued, saved, and delivered by our King, Yahushua Hamashiach, the Lamb of Yah, the Lion of the tribe of Yehuda. As we speak, cataclysmic events, world changing events, judgments, floods, fires, earthquakes in diverse places, drought, famine, hopelessness, homelessness. All around us, Zion, in ways and measures that have never been seen like this before. It's almost over. It's almost over. There's just a few more events, biblically speaking, that have to take place. But the prophesied events that lead to the end event, which is the day of judgment, there is no doubt in the mind of Mora Yoshiyahu. We are clearly in that time. I've been studying this Bible a long time, Zion. Comparing line upon line, precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little, comparing all the books of the Bible one with another. And over these last 10 or 11 years, focusing primarily on Zion, the very children of Yisrael, and how we, as Yah's people, are the center and timepiece, if you please, that the world is supposed to look at and watch, so they may know what time it truly is, according to Abba Yah's prophetic calendar and timetable. And on tonight, I just wanted to upload this video. Know we had scheduled to do a study in our Aleph Bet. We will continue. But I want to lay something on the heart and mind of Zion. What you are seeing, Zion, in this world is the beginning of the end. The question I have for Zion is, seeing all the stuff that's happening, the events and the great catastrophes and the great we're starting to see the great unrest of this world. Seeing it is a question. What kind of person are you going to be? You see the judgments. You see what time it is. You see how Abba Yah has fixed it so the whole world would be focused on us, Zion, the true bloodline descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the very 12 tribes of Israel. It's us and the events that we have clearly seen unfold before our eyes after the 2,000-year separation from our holy land. These last 400 years of European slavery to the four corners of the earth. Oh, yes. Thus fulfilling prophecy that is almost over. The question is, what kind of person are you going to be? I want you to think about this. Laid out in 2 Peter chapter 3. His name is Kepha. Get it straight. That's what we're doing. We are getting rid of these spots and ironing out wrinkles so that we can understand our text. Kepha tells us who he's writing to. He's writing to the 12 tribes of Israel that have been scattered and have become strangers. He's writing to those of us who in this situation and circumstance seem sometime to allow what we see to frighten us, to allow what we see to discourage us, to allow what we see to question our very resolve. Kepha saw it a long time ago among the scattered. he thought to give us a word of encouragement that I want to share with you on tonight. And in my prayers, that you will let this word permeate your heart, your mind, and your soul. This second letter, beloved, I write now unto you, this second epistle. In both which I stir up your pure mind by way of remembrance, that you be mindful of the words which were spoken before by the prophets. How can we be mindful of the words spoken to us by the prophets if we have not yet read with understanding the prophets? Zion, in these last days, we've got to read the manuscript. We have to read who Abba Yah has chosen to deliver his word through, to get his word to us. And the commandment of us, the apostles of our Master and Savior. Knowing first that there shall come in the last days scoffers. Oh yes, the scoffing of us, the very children of Yisrael. We were warned that in the last days, scoffing, that means people making fun of you, talking about you, saying that you're crazy, saying that you are not who you know you are. People will be poking fun at you. He said, you better know something about the last days. You're going to be living in a time where people would rather scoff than study. They would rather scoff than look it up for themselves. They would rather scoff than rightly divide the word of truth. They're more into scoffing than they are the scriptures. He said, no, they're coming. In the last days, walking after their own lust, saying, where is the promise of his return, of his coming? Since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of the creation. Ain't that what you're hearing? Kiefer said, look, scoffers are coming. And like, man, it's all, ain't nothing gonna change. It's all gonna be the same. I want to ask the scoffers, so what about now? Things ain't the same now as they were 1 year ago today. How are things the same? The world went through and is still, in a sense, going through a quarantine. World walking around with masks, face coverings. Every man, woman, boy, and girl. Travel is down to zero. How are things the same, Zion? Athletes playing before virtual crowds. How are things the same, Zion? Droughts, earthquakes. Oh, I hear you. I've always had that moray. I'm going to tell you what we have not always had. The worst ever. Worst on record. Worst drought on record. Worst storms on record. Worst earthquakes on record. The absolute worst fires on record since the heathen started keeping record. How are things the same? With all the great and when I say great, I mean large and massive schools empty, elementary schools empty, hallways of colleges empty, classrooms empty, houses of so-called worship empty, temples and mosques empty, cathedrals empty. How are things the same? Scoffers, they gonna talk, but they're not looking. They say, come on, worry about these last days. All right, let's continue. Where's the promise of his coming? It's now. Let me answer that for you. They say, because we've been hearing this, things have been the same as from the beginning, for they willingly are ignorant. Willingly want to be ignorant. Zion. Don't fall in that category. They're ignorant of the word of Yah, the Elohim of heaven, were of old, and the earth standing out of the water and in the water, whereby the world that then was, being overflowed with water, perished. Man, the scoffers were here in Noah's day. Everything before the flood, except Noah, his wife, Ham, Shem, and Japheth, and their wives, escaped the judgment. Judgment's coming. It's coming. It's almost over. I never shall forget reading Noah as he got close to the end. Abba Yah told him, he had 7 days. You got 7 days, and I'm going to destroy this earth. You know, the people didn't believe it. Nah, things going to just keep going. So with all this evidence, coronaviruses, and then we still dealing with all the other viruses in this world, and sickness and disease and pestilence and crime and fighting in the streets and wars and rumors of wars and nations against nations and kingdoms against kingdom and all. He said all these are the beginning of sorrows. I've talked about that before. Let's continue. But the heaven and the earth which are now by the same word are kept in store, reserved unto fire. 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 7. Fire. This earth and the people that oppose Yah are being, according to the Bible, reserved unto fire against that day. The day of judgment and perdition of ungodly men, unrighteous men, wicked. Zion, understand something. Things are not going to stay the same. Things will never go back to the same. From this point forward, we have entered into the very events of the last days. How does this thing end? It ends with the destruction of the wicked and the rescue of the righteous. But, verse 8, beloved, comma, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is with Yahuwah as 1,000 years. And 1,000 years as one day. What are you saying? He's saying Yah is not slack concerning his promises. Let me explain that for you, Zion. Kepha said, if Yah makes a promise, time don't mean anything to him. If he make a promise, he could keep that promise and do what he says the next day. Or he can wait 1,000 years and keep that promise as though he kept it one day. In other words, the promise of the destruction of this earth by fire may have been given to us thousands of years ago. But to Yah, it was like given today. He saw it played out already. And that's where I'm going with this little study and meditation. I want you to think about this. The revelation. We talk about it being in the future. But Abba Yah has already seen it happen. The judgments. They've already been accomplished. The seals opened, trumpets blown, bowls poured out. All we're doing now is watching it play out. Time does not diminish the veracity of our Abba Yah. Time does not hinder the power and strength of our Redeemer. He doesn't forget as one day turns into night and then night to day and days to weeks and weeks to months and months to years, years to decades, decades to centuries, centuries to thousands of years. It's just like one day. Yes, don't be ignorant. Time to Yah never softens or diminishes his word. Yah's not slack concerning his promises, as some men count slackness, but he is long suffering toward us, Zion. He's given us a chance, Zion. He's patient with us, Zion. Long suffering toward us. Do you see Kepha say, usward? So before your eyes open, you didn't see that. But now that your eyes are open, you know Kepha is talking about the 12 tribes of Israel. And those who are going to connect with the 12 tribes of Israel as a grafted in branch. Let's continue. Not willing that any should perish. Any of us, the children of Israel, but that all should come to repentance. Verse 10. But the day of Yahuwah will come. See, it's coming. You can't stop it. It's almost over. Kepha said this 2,000 years ago. He said, don't matter if it come this year, next year, 1,000 years from now, it don't change Yah. He's writing to the 12 tribes that's been scattered. He said, understand something. That day's coming. And yes, today Morios Yahoo have to tell Israel the exact same thing. That day is coming. Matter of fact, it is upon us now. Zion. But the day of Yahuwah will come as a thief in the night, in the which the heavens shall pass away with great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. And the earth also, and the works that are therein, shall be burnt up. Did you hear that, Zion? Seeing then that all these things shall be dissolved, what manner of person ought ye to be in all holy conversation? And that word should be, and righteousness. Verse 12. Looking for and hastening unto the coming of the day of Elohim, wherein the heavens being on fire shall be dissolved, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. Nevertheless, we, according to his promise, look for new heavens and a new earth, wherein dwelleth righteousness, Zion, Zadik in Hebrew, which means the way of Yah, the righteous path of Torah. Hallelujah. Wherefore, beloved, seeing that you look for such things, be diligent, that you may be found in him, found of him in shalom, without spot and blameless. One love, Zion. Stay true, stay strong. It's almost over. Be righteous.